Hi guys, welcome back to Codemaster Coach, your medical coding tutor. Guys, today I want to talk to you about how to prepare for a coding job. After preparing for and passing your CPC exam, you feel like you can finally offer a sigh of relief, right? After all, that was not an easy task. Finding a job should be easier, right? Not always the case. In fact, I've had students tell me the reason they studied medical coding was because there seemed to be a shortage of medical coders, and they thought once certified, they would easily find a job. Since getting certified, the jobs are not there. The jobs that are advertised are looking for individuals with experience. How are they, as newly certified coders, going to get the experience required to get the job? I hear that all the time. How can we get experience if no one will hire us? Guys, in this case, we have to create our jobs. Coach, easy for you to say. Create our jobs. Guys, first thing I always tell my students is volunteer. If you know there's someplace that you'd like to work, volunteer there first. Get in the door. Once you're on the inside, you tend to hear things that you couldn't hear on the outside. So volunteer. Even if it's not in the coding area, get in the door. Volunteer. And then when you step out, for example, I always tell my students, when you go to your doctor's office for a visit, take your code books with you. I always take my any correcting or any reviewing or any studying that I'm doing, I always take my books with me. And I don't know whether it's a conversation starter or what, but if I go to any doctor's offices, they tend to, due to the size of our books, I think is really what catches their attention. But they tend to ask me, what are you studying? And a lot of times I have to say, no, I'm not studying, I'm correcting papers or something like that. But I told my students, take your books with you. And I've had numerous students come back and say, Coach, that was a good idea. The doctor asked me what was I studying, and when I explained I'm studying medical coding, that just opens up the avenues to start talking. Well, I'd like for you to talk to my staff. Well, I'd like for you to tell me a little more about medical coding. It starts a conversation. It could lead to a position because your doctor knows you medically. Let them get to know you professionally. Start at an entry position. Okay, sometimes it's not easy to just jump right into coding. So even if you see a ward clerk position or a receptionist type position, sometimes it takes taking one of those jobs first so that then you can move in. Or I always say, then you can determine whether or not you really want the job there. But start off, if you have to start off as a receptionist or ward clerk or even as a biller with your knowledge of coding, start off in one of those positions if that position comes open before a medical coding position. Teach. Guys, when I worked in the office, in my physician's office, where I saw shortcomings, whether it was with the documentation of my physician, I'd set up little study guides for my physician, or I'd do research and prepare little lesson plans for my medical assistant, for my receptionist, for my doctors, for different people in the office where I saw things that I could help or I felt like I had some input. I would set up little lesson plans or little study guides or even little classes. And from there, it just kind of grows. Once the word gets out in your office, what you're doing in your office, other offices want to know, can she come speak to our office? So that starts. I always tell my students, build a notebook. Set goals to apply for 5 jobs a day. When you're first out, you've got your CPC, you got your resume together, set up a notebook and keep a log. And your goal is 5 jobs a day that you're going to apply for. And then keep that log and document each of the 5 jobs each day, the date you applied. Now check them off as each position is filled. But after 2 weeks, if you haven't heard from a job that you applied for, then that's your note to do a follow-up. And follow up with those positions that you haven't heard from. And then it kind of opens the door so they get to know your name because you're calling and you're following up. But ultimately, I always tell my students, create your job. Create your job. Get your name out there somehow. If you have to go by the offices and just talk to people in the office and ask them about their coding jobs and what their expectations are. And just physically just go by and speak to people. And, oh, by the way, may I leave my resume? Oh, by the way, tell me a little bit about your position or what they're doing. And then let them know, should a position come open, keep me in mind. But guys, these days, you have to create your jobs. I've learned that. Whatever it is, create it. If you know a place that you want to work, even if they don't have a position open, send a resume. Send a resume to HR, to the HIM director, to the physician, to the physician's office. Get your resume in front of their face, whether a position is open or not. Sometimes people read a resume and they want you in before anybody else grabs you, so they'll create a position knowing that down the line a position's going to come open. So ultimately, guys, my advice is to make this journey fun. It can be tedious. It can be, I don't know, a bad experience trying to find a job. So I'm asking you to take control and make it fun. Guys, I never ask, but if you're enjoying my channel, subscribe. And let's keep the conversation going. Okay, guys? Thanks. I'll see you in the next video.